This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Hey folks, welcome to the podcast. Happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing today? The number of ounces of silver needed to buy an ounce of gold now at near 30-year highs. Silver is bargain priced when compared to gold, and it's a perfect time to protect a portion of your savings with silver. And Silver Gold Bull has a wide variety of best value silver for every budget. Simply text or email Grahame for details. Whether you are a seasoned investor or new to precious metals, Grahame will work with you to answer all your questions and recommend the best products to meet your investing goals. It's all down in the show notes. If you're on silvergoldbull.ca or .com, just make sure to reference the Shaun Newman Podcast. Bow Valley Credit Union is your Alberta regulated, fully serviced financial institution, and they're proud to present the first in Canada gold collateral lending. Now, all of you can lend against your physical gold and silver for favorable rates. It's like a HELOC on your gold and silver. And if you don't have any gold and silver, that is, you can also get a loan to purchase it from Bow Valley Credit Union. All you got to do is start your Bow Valley Credit Union membership today. Send an email to welcome@bowvalleycu.com. It's all down in the show notes. And start a better path forward with Bow Valley CU. Profit River. When it comes to firearms, optics, accessories, they serve all of Canada. So listen up, Canada. They got a brand new website, easy for all of you to use, some cool new features. On any purchase, just use the coupon code SNP. It gets into monthly draws that can, reward you for purchasing through Profit River. And when it comes to firearms, optics, accessories, all your gun needs, don't look any further than Profit River. Just head to profitriver.com and you can get, a huge variety of firearms and expert staff to help you get what you need where you're at today in Canada. Just go to profitriver.com. Diamond 7 Meats. Well, tired of the big chain stores, folks? Discover Diamond 7 Meats, a family-run business you can trust, serving our beautiful community for over 26 years. And in all the conversations I've had with their staff, they kept on repeating how important their values of honesty and integrity are while serving their community. They offer all the cuts you can find at any retail store, and their expert staff can help you with, anything you need to know about meat, whether, how thick you want it, to cooking temperatures, and a whole lot more. Heck, whether or not you're getting the right cut, maybe, they can offer any cuts. And you can just call them and be like, hey, I would like this fresh. Can you make this? They'll do that. You can also just show up, and they got it sitting there in the freezer as well. They're on Highway 17 and 67th Street North. You can give them a call today. That is, give Diamond 7 Meats a call today, 306-825-9718. If you're looking for concrete, stamped concrete, the new studio, the guys who did that, Renegade Acres, that's Caleb Taves, and reach out if you're looking for somebody to lay a pad or, some stamped concrete like he does. Fantastic work. Can't speak. Wow, there's a lot of men that have come through the podcast. Let me tell you, I've been very humbled at some of the people that have come around this podcast. Caleb Taves is just one of the many. The Cornerstone Forum 2026, believe me, we're working on it here in July. We're hoping to have an answer. I keep saying that. And hopefully I'll have an answer for you sooner than later. I want to remind everybody, for the month of July, we have no Tuesday episode. So if you're going, where was Tuesday? We don't have a Tuesday episode for the month of July. And then Thursdays is Throwback Thursdays. Friday, mashup at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard regular time. But Tuesday has a guest co-host for the month of July as I head off on holidays and I guess continue holidays with the wife and kids. So if you're wondering, that's where, or wondering why, I should say why there's no Tuesday, that'd be why. We take a little bit of a break here in July and recharge the batteries, and we'll be ready to roll August 1. Have no worries. I think we get back on a it's still there, on a mashup, if memory serves me correct. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, Rumble, YouTube, X, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a review. Make sure to hit the retweet. Make sure to, cut out your favorite parts of the podcast. I just saw a cool one where people were making commentary on some of the guests. That's cool too. You have fun with it. If you're enjoying it, obviously text me. My number's down in the show notes. Would love to hear your thoughts. All right, let's get on to that tale of the tape. The first founded the Canadian Pro Rodeo Sports Medicine Program, the Alberta Athletic Therapists Association, and the Sports Medicine Council of Alberta. The second is a certified athletic therapist and volunteer for the Lakeland Region Winter Games Society. I'm talking about Dexter Nelson and Danielle Larsen. So buckle up, here we go. Welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Danielle Larsen and Dexter Nelson, who keeps coming and going. So I guess we'll start with Danielle. Danielle, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Now, I assume Dexter's going to hop back in here at some point. But between here and there, maybe just tell the audience a little bit about yourself. First time on the podcast. Would love to just, let them and myself know a little bit about yourself. Would love to hear it.
Yeah, so my name's Danielle Larsen. I am in Bonnyville, Alberta, more specifically Summer Village of Pelican Narrows near Moose Lake. And I'm a certified athletic therapist and currently working with the Lakeland Region Winter Games Society for the 2026 Winter Games in the Lakeland region. I'm also a mom of 2 boys, and my husband, Matt, is an industrial firefighter.
Oh, wow. When you say industrial firefighter, do you mean just like, what actually do you mean by that?
So he works in industry for an oil company.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I'm for sure.
Firefighter. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, so industry, like private kind of, I guess, industry.
Was he, silly question, maybe not silly, was he just a firefighter before and then decided to go private? Or how did he get into just private?
Yeah, that was kind of basically the path. He's also an electrician and kind of worked his way through a volunteer department, actually in Rocky View County near Calgary, and then had an opportunity to work for some oil companies in the north, and that's where his path took us. And
I know it's supposed to be about you. I'm just like industrial. I don't know if I'd ever heard. I didn't realize oil companies hired firefighters. Now I sound silly because I should probably know that. That's a first. I didn't know that. So okay,
maybe you should meet him and you could ask him about it.
Well, maybe he should join a blue collar roundtable. That could be possible. Dexter, if you're listening, tell us a little bit. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself. You're a first time guest. I like to, just let the audience know who they're listening to.
Shaun, I taught for a number of years, and Danielle was one of my students at Mount Royal College. And my background is I grew up on a farm. I went to Mount Royal and the University of Calgary, took a phys ed degree, played in sports. At U of C, I was an intercollegiate wrestler and a rugby player. On the farm, of course, it was wrestling and it was hockey and curling in the winter and baseball in the summer. But long story short, I've been busy and working as a certified athletic therapist in Alberta for quite a number of years. And I'm currently the president of the Sport Medicine Council of Alberta. And when Danielle indicated that one of her ambitions, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Danielle, was to try and find some resources to have certified athletic therapists and sport physios, and I'm sure you have other people you're interested in, Danielle, if we could somehow pay them as volunteers, pay their expenses to come and look after athletes. Shaun, I know that you as a hockey player had an athletic trainer working with your team, and frankly, we think that if there's risk involved in sport at whatever level, we think it would be important to have a person who understands that and can deal with it and look after the athlete's best interests.
Now, all this circles around the Alberta Winter Games coming to Lakeland in 2026. So before we get to trying to find resources and the importance of certified athletic therapists, in my brain, I keep wanting to say trainers, but I'm going to stick with the actual wording. Let's talk about the Alberta Winter Games coming in 2026. I was telling Danielle, Dexter, when you hopped off, back as a younger man, I guess as a teenager, I got to compete in the Alberta Summer Games. And it's one of those fond memories, like not every kid at any level of sport ever gets to compete in something like that. With the Alberta Winter Games, what drew both of you towards trying to, help with that venture out or that I don't know, that event?
Yeah, I would say so. Locally, in this area, we started a sport tourism committee that I was a part of in the area, and explored the possibility of having the Winter Games here for next year, and then we're awarded that, and was able to go on a delegation to the previous Winter Games in Grand Prairie, where I got to see all the sports, how they were taken care of, the polyclinics, and just saw that it's a similar region to us. It was Grand Prairie, a little bit more rural, and saw some gaps in that medical piece. With access to actual sport medicine professionals. There were some, but not every sport had access to them. So a lot of local medical professionals like RNs, first aiders, and others, paramedics, were helping, which is great. But the piece that was lacking was that actual sport medicine expertise. So when I was offered this job with the local region, I immediately kind of, targeted that as something that I wanted to improve for our games, and then started making some calls and got connected with Dexter to see what we could do and how we could make it possible to have actually the best people there for these athletes. And that meant bringing people in from outside of our local space, especially in this rural area.
If you don't mind painting me a picture, Danielle, like when you say you're sitting there and you're in Grand Prairie and you're watching this go down, and you're seeing all these wonderful athletes compete, and I'm sure like tons of I don't know, like it was just something about a giant athletic gathering that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But you talk about gaps in medical. So what did you like when you were watching? What did you notice that you're like, gee, that's a hole. We should try and address that when it comes to our area.
Well, I think it's just the awareness that sport medicine professionals, such as sport physio, certified athletic therapists, and sport physicians, sport medicine doctors, they learn, one, how to watch a sport and what to look for. Two, how to make quick decisions and make smart return to play decisions. And three, another thing is just having that experience for the quick decision making, taping and strapping skills, all of those things that make that sport medicine piece so, I guess, critical, especially in such a small short-term event that means so much to these kids.
Now, I assume, Danielle, that Dexter wasn't there with you, and that when you decided to take on this role, you made a phone call to Dexter. Am I maybe piecing together part of the story?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. It was like, who do I call? And that name definitely came up, especially knowing that he was a part of the Sport Medicine Council of Alberta, which plays a piece in the Alberta sport ministry that we are dealing with the Winter Games. So that the Alberta Sport Ministry leads our organization and like the whole society to help run the games.
Dexter, when she made the phone call, and she's talking about gaps in what she's seeing, I assume, and would you volunteer or help with it? I just walk me through it, because I mean, you being around sports, being an athlete, I like how you threw out wrestling on the farm first and not the other sports, because I got older brothers and there was a whole lot of wrestling going on. What was your thoughts? Like, what is your thoughts when it comes to Winter Games or amateur athletes getting together and then volunteering, and then and probably, if I can tack one more in there, gaps in medical, being a part of that, or making sure there are no gaps?
Well, Shaun, growing up again on the farm, you could see a lot of gaps at the time of what could have happened or whatever. And one of the other things I've done in my lifetime is I founded the Canadian Pro Rodeo Sport Medicine team. So when you go to rural communities, you'll get to see where there's opportunity for people to get hurt. You try and coach them in terms of prevention and so on. So to make a long story short, when Danielle talked to me about it, I said, well, what exactly do you need? And she said, well, we'd like to put together a budget which would allow to pay for the expenses for people to come and spend, I think it's 3 days, isn't it, Danielle?
Yeah, it's about three full days of competition.
And have these people, both from a social perspective, but certainly from a professional perspective, come and apply their trade and to raise the standard in terms of how we look after athletes who get hurt potentially, how to prevent it if we can. Once they are hurt, how to deal with them in an in-game or competition setting, make tough decisions around how they can return to play safely, etc. So Danielle and I have been through this 100 times before. And honestly, when she said she was in Bonnyville, I thought of you, Shaun, because being in Lloydminster, you're kind of in the same part of the country. The other part is, and I'm going to pat you on the back, you have an excellent program that a lot of people listen to, and I think some of the people you listen to might be interested in helping support this.
Well, when it comes to athletics, I have a soft spot in my heart for it, because as soon as you said it, I'm like, yeah, we could probably talk about that. And like, I don't get to talk, don't get to talk about sports near as much as I once did. But certainly when things are coming in the area, I want to help promote it. You were mentioning 3 days. If anyone is curious, Alberta Winter Games 2026, February 13th to 16th. And Danielle can fill in the blanks of exactly where it's at, but it's Lakeland. So you're looking at Bonnyville, Cold Lake. I feel like there's a couple that I am spacing on.
Glendon, yeah, the town or the village of Glendon, and the municipal district of Bonnyville is also a large partner as well, being a big municipality around here.
Now, you mentioned Dexter. Like as a hockey player, you had a trainer, or I'm going to keep saying trainer. I apologize, folks. Sure. Regardless, did you have one? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. When I look at amateur athletes, and I was an amateur athlete, but sorry, the younger ones, right? We're talking 14 to 16-year-olds. Did I catch, or is it 12 to 16?
12 to 16.
Is it fair to say some of these kids have probably never had anything to do with a trainer or a certified athletic therapist?
Yeah, I'd say pretty fair to say, although the provincial sporting organizations are actually probably one of our biggest supporters as certified ATs and sport physios. They see the value of having us there. So when it comes to provincial sports, or like the provincial competitions, so when you're going to like the Alberta, provincials, you're starting to see them more and more. So even from the provincial sport organization perspective, it's something that they're familiar with. And they even have their people and names that they would even, throw in and suggest that they have for us.
Well, I would think, all the little things make an event what it is, So when I'm not thinking of anything specifically, but having an athlete, oh man, I'm going to butcher this, certified athletic therapist. I could probably say this 50 times and still not remember it, folks. But like little things like that will make it feel more professional too, right? Like, and for a kid 12 to 16 going there, maybe never having that experience, it's only going to bring the experience of Alberta Winter Games, which is already going to be an experience for all these kids, a little higher. And I assume what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm wrong on this, when you're looking for resources to bring them in, it's kind of like not only can they benefit the kids that are there, but they can actually benefit their careers and their occupations by watching and learning and everything else, because it's not like you're working on a kid every 10 seconds. It could be actually just monitoring. How many sports are going on in Alberta Winter Games? I assume quite a few.
Yeah, 18 sports.
18 sports. So, my brain immediately goes to hockey. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure, like I was looking down the website, and I'm like, how many therapist, athletic therapist. Man, I'm going to butcher this all episode long, folks.
We could just say ATs also. that
ATs,
works.
that's better.
Yeah.
But how many of them sit and watch a badminton game and are watching the, like all the little dynamics of the quickness back and forth and having to deal with an injury like that compared to a big hit in a hockey game? I assume that adds into this for your background as well. Am I right in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Dexter, you jump in here whenever you'd like. I'd say that it's really good because for young therapists coming up, they're going to get exposure to new sports. And also that social networking with other peers that they might not have worked with before.
Yeah, well, and I got to apologize to the audience. I can't see Dexter right now because he has no camera, so I can't pick up on social cues.
Yeah.
Dexter, your thoughts?
Yes. Well, so all of these kids, some of them, and I shouldn't call them kids, but all of these young athletes, I think may or may not have had some type of exposure. So typically in a small community, you'd have a nurse, you would have a person who's a first aid person, and so on. Having someone like a certified athletic therapist, a sport physiotherapist, and if you look on the Sport Medicine Council of Alberta's website, which is sportmedalberta.com, you can see there's a number of different professions that provide service and support, injury care for all of these athletes. I can tell you that when I worked both at the University of Calgary and then at Mount Royal College in Calgary, and when we were asked to volunteer to help at, for example, a junior high wrestling tournament, what I found was these kids went 100 miles an hour. And when they got hurt, when you put a finger and said, where does it hurt from the top of their head right to the bottom of their feet. So in a sense, you're trying to educate these people about injuries and how to deal with them effectively, and to calm them down and have them focus on exactly where the problem might be. So I think this is actually an interesting exercise because we should have an opportunity to educate these young athletes about how to recognize and deal with injuries, and then and the people that they can go to in the future should they have any issues with them. So that's kind of my idea, and that's been my experience.
Dexter, you said, and I don't know, I wrote down Canadian Pro Rodeo something. You'll have to forgive my something because I couldn't rattle it off fast. Am I to understand that you were watching Rodeo and decided, like, they need some help? Like, these guys are riding, I assume, bulls and everything else, and you're like, these guys are athletes. They need somebody looking at them, or what happened there? Walk me through this.
Shaun, I hope everybody laughs when I tell you this. I rode steers in a Calgary Stampede in 1964, which was probably before everybody, you or Danielle, were born. But I grew up in a community where rodeo was a big deal. And Don Johansson, who was a former Canadian bull riding championship, was a neighbor of mine. When I was at the University of Calgary, he said, how come we can't do what they're doing in the States with the Justin Healer program? And I said, well, there's probably not a reason that we shouldn't do that. So our first season, we volunteered essentially to work the Calgary Stampede, to work Cloverdale in BC, to work Ponoka, and then work the Canadian finals in Edmonton. And to make a long story short, I'm quite familiar with rodeo injuries. And I worked it for 25 years, Shaun, and I can tell you there's a laundry list of interesting things that happened with these people in terms of some of the injuries. And I also have to laugh because sometimes I had more injuries at the dance afterwards, Shaun, than I did at the rodeo.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me at all. I am kind of curious though, so you got all these athletes showing up for rodeo. Were you busy before, with them, or did they all just kind of look at you like, no, I'm not dealing with that guy. I'm a tough hombre. I'm going to go do what I have to do. Or were they like, no, I could really use some work. Could you help me out here? Like, what was there? I'm just curious with that group of people. I know some rodeo boys. They're tough guys. And I might add girls in there too. Was that a welcome addition when you first started that?
Shaun, thank you. That's a good point. When we worked, and probably the Canadian finals, our first Canadian finals, which I think was in 1974, We had to sell ourselves. People looked at us and said, "You just want a free ticket to come in and watch the rodeo, or you want to do this or that." With the help of Don Johansson and the fact that we worked with some of the high-risk events, probably bull riding and bareback bronc riding as examples, and to some extent the timed event guys who were steer wrestlers and so on, if they'd blow out a knee or have a sprained ankle, we had to show success. And then word of mouth said, you can trust these guys, they'll help you. And actually, it's still going on. I have a former student of mine still looking after pro rodeo sport medicine.
What is one of the success stories you had that spread word of mouth? Like, I'm not like, I don't know. I feel like bull rider gets bucked off, his shoulder's out. He somehow slams it back in, shoots I'm being a bit of a jackass here, folks, but, takes a shot of whiskey and is like, let's go again. Because the cowboys I know, I'm like, I don't know, maybe they did see athletic therapists all the time. I just I don't recall this. Now I was not born back then, Dexter. So maybe you can give me a success story on how this worked with them.
I have to laugh, Shaun, and I don't want to get into trouble either, but the typical first aid kit for a cowboy in those days, and I know I'm going to get heat for this, was Copenhagen and rye whiskey. So
I forgot the Copenhagen. That is my fault.
No problem. So let's say we've got a bull rider. He comes off and sprains a knee or sprains an ankle, or if they have a concussion, and that's a whole separate conversation. But we would, more often than not, try and tape something up. And that's assuming that it would help them compete safely. Then we would try and make things happen. Give them advice and say, if it stays the same or gets worse, you shouldn't do this, which it doesn't come very often because, cowboys, Shaun, they'll do it no matter what. And so we offered good advice. We actually helped them do certain things, and typically taping something that was to protect it was some of the things that they really liked.
So if you fast forward to the Alberta Winter Games, and you're looking at, I'm just looking at some of the different sports: alpine skiing, archery, artistic gymnastics, biathlon, cross country skiing, curling, freestyle skiing. Oh, that I assume there's going to be a few injuries there. I would assume you both agree, like anytime you're not playing chess, chess players, and you're doing something physical with the body. I even think of badminton and just how quick you have to be to get to the different sides of the court, how quickly you could do something with an ankle or a knee or on and on. How important is it to have somebody there immediately while it's going on?
Well, I think being able to watch an injury is actually kind of it's a great thing to watch the mechanism, because then you have a really good idea of what you're dealing with. So that eyes on the injury. Of course, you can't see everything. Sometimes you'll have someone come with an injury, but just that importance of immediate care, immediate eyes on the injury, just helps, especially because this is such a short-term competition, that the quicker it gets assessed and then, some solutions given, the better chance that athlete might be able to compete later on that day or in the weekend. So, time is really essential in short-term competition for sure.
You said something there that it fascinates me. Why is, now I'm like, I get hurt, I walk into Danielle's office and I try and explain it. I can probably understand why it's important to see the injury, but what is the importance of seeing the injury happen like in real time?
Well, it's just a bonus, I think. It just gives perspective to the forces involved, direction of, injury, what all could be involved, and secondary things also. So it's one of those things also where video replay is really great. It's like a technology that we can use as sport medicine professionals to see, what actually did happen here. What should we be watching out for? Of course, we have to do a full examination to really get an idea of the injury. But it's a piece of the puzzle that, it saves us explaining, and if we know what's going on.
Dexter, you've had many a year in this. How important is seeing it
Yes.
happen versus trying to just have a cowboy or a hockey player, or take your pick, try and be like, oh yeah, my ankle hurts. Like, what happened? Well, I just kind of fell into the boards weird, or what have you. How important is actually seeing it in real time versus, having it diagnosed? You even think video replay is a new technology that has not been around, forever.
Shaun, if communication is typically a problem, and if you ask somebody who may not have lots of experience describing what happened, you say, well, for example, in a knee injury, you might plant your leg, rotate, and push off, which might suggest that you've got an anterior cruciate tear. Or in a shoulder injury, if you've elevated your arm up so your elbow's as high as your shoulder, and then pretend you're going to throw a football, if that's where the position is, then you're saying that's a classic position for a shoulder dislocation. So if you can see it, then they don't have to describe it to you, because sometimes when people describe it, it's not as accurate as if you could actually see the thing happening.
I can see Danielle nodding as you go along, and I'm like, I feel like you're both not speaking Chinese, but at the same time, I'm like, the tear, yeah, it hurts. The shoulder hurts, Dexter. I don't know if I just got bumped into the corner. Like,
Well,
but Shaun, tell us. Shaun, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just, because I also work for the Pro Rodeo Sport Medicine team, and we just had an injury over the last weekend, and seeing that injury helped us make a quicker call for an injury too, right? So eyes on it, being able to activate EMS sooner because we knew the gravity of the situation. So there's kind of a lot of reasons why being there and seeing is really important.
So, Shaun, tell us, you've played hockey at quite a high level. So have you ever been injured before?
Oh yes. Yeah.
So
I've had my spells.
So do you have any particular injury that you'd like to talk to us about?
Well, since then I've gone to athletic trainers and have them worked on. But I remember being a younger guy, and the best thing to do was not to tell anyone, because if you told someone, then you might get pulled from the game, and I didn't want to get pulled from the game. So I've torn my PCL. I've had a partial tear in one of the other in your knee. Anyways, and I knew as soon as it happened, and I went off like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yep, yeah, I'm fine." Because I'm like, I don't, it was playoffs. I didn't want to get pulled, and I had this fear in my head of like, if you tell them you're done for, it's the hymen. We just had. Now that was different. That was a broken wrist, as far as I think is from what I'd heard. But like, there's this culture in hockey specifically, and I assume Cowboys as well. We didn't have the Copenhagen near as much as they did, but certainly, like, you're supposed to grit through some of the pain, and concussions. We've seen a huge change in that from when I played. Like, you got a concussion, as long as you were still functioning, you just played through it, right? And so playing through it, that comes with repercussions down the line that I, as a younger athlete, I wish I probably would have understood. Because, losing your knees over one game in playoffs probably isn't the smartest choice. So I can wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. I just chuckle at, like, seeing it real time versus having to deal with me, like, a month after. When did this happen? Yeah, a month ago. What have you been doing? Playing hockey. Are you an idiot? Yes, I am. Like that's my, but that's the era I grew up in. It's changed an awful lot, Dexter.
No, it has. And it's funny you say that, because some people don't, if they're hurt, let's take a rodeo athlete. If they're hurt, they know they're hurt. They don't want any help. They're angry. You have to let them settle down, sort it out, and let them come to you when they're ready, so that you can actually do an assessment on them and figure out, here's what we think your problem is. Now, either 80% of the time, these cowboys are amazing, cowgirls also, who If they're injured, they have an active lifestyle, usually back on the farm or wherever. 80% of the time, and I'm making numbers up, they'll go back and they'll actually work and physically be active and rehab these things, whether they know it or not, and then come back. It's the people who, when you say to them and look them in the eye and say, listen, if this stays the same or gets worse, I think we better get somebody, we better look at this and try and recommend a future care or somehow to deal with it. So with your PCL, and I'm guessing maybe an ACL, then you're looking at some type of a bracing, a rehab program. You might be looking at surgery. You need to have all of those things explained to you so you know what your choices are, Shaun. And that's what our job is.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing for an athlete to hear, because when it was my PCL, they were talking about how much time it was going to take to rehab and all the different things. And I was like, well, can I play hockey in 2 weeks? They're like, what are you I've made a few athletic trainers chuckle in their day, because, you know, I want to get back playing, and sticking to a program to make you healthy again is sometimes difficult for a thick-skulled guy like myself who just wants to play. Just do whatever you got to do. Just let me back on the ice. I don't care. I just want back on the ice. I assume that's got to be an interesting thing for you two to have to deal with.
Yeah,
it boils down to, you need to have an athlete trust you and trust your advice. And once you say, well, John, if you got a torn PCL, posterior cruciate ligament, then here's the deal. If you keep doing this, here are the potential things that are going to make it worse over time, and it's not going to get better unless we do something in a positive way. There's a lot of examples where you can keep doing things, and with luck, it won't get worse. But we try to give you advice and say, you're making a good choice. Here are your choices. Here's the one we recommend. If you do the other things, here's what might happen. And then in the end, if you come back and see us again, now we've got a line of communication where you understand what we told you is true. And now we can find some better solutions for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was talking about earlier today with a friend, with having young kids, is trying to get not only ourselves, but them to think longer than, you know, maybe the day or the week ahead. Because, you know, you make choices and with you two talking about injuries, you know, like there's a chance. You're like, there's a chance it just gets better. There is a chance. Yep. Mm-hmm. But let's paint a picture of 5 years down the road if you don't get this the right way, or maybe it's less than that, and how debilitating it could be to you playing said sport long term. And, you know, that's something that every athlete has to wrestle with. And I assume that's a big chunk of what your roles are in building trust and trying to make them understand, you know, maybe we should think about this from a different angle than just trying to finish out the match.
Yeah, I'd say that's very important, especially when it comes to head injuries and that awareness piece. Like we could talk about that for ages, but just signaling that, you know, you've had a head injury, you are concussed, that ability to take yourself out of play, just really it's saving your one brain, right? So those big decisions are super important to take seriously, and without proper guidance and trust of the people caring for you, then it could be quite serious in the long term.
Why do you guys, both of you? Oh, sorry, Dexter, fire.
No, so there's really two questions you have to ask. What's the accurate diagnosis, and what's the accurate treatment protocol? And as you work with these people, and I know in Rodeo, Danielle, we'll see the same cowboys and cowgirls over and over. And after a while, they'll come to us and say, well, what do you think of this? So once you'd establish a repertoire where you say, here are your choices, they respect that. If you go out there and say, you can't do this anymore, they're going to ignore you. So you give them choices. Your choices actually turn out to be valid. They understand that. And then in the future, they'll actually trust and do what you ask them to do. And I think that's what it's all about. To see an athlete once is difficult. To see them over and over again actually builds that relationship.
So how do you build trust real fast in an event like the Winter Games?
Well, that's difficult for sure. It's short term, right? But I would say having the right people in place that understand, you know, the sport itself, but also the protocols in place and, what can be done to return them to play. Just that background of the sport medicine piece, it immediately sets yourself up for success as a practitioner. And then also just kind of that communication piece with the teams, coming in maybe beforehand and saying, here, like, these are the people that are going to be in place. They have these credentials. Please trust them with your kids. Like having that information to these coaches early on would be really, would really help build that trust from the beginning.
Which brings me then,
Shaun, can I just say that when you have the parents who are typically there, when you have underage kids under 18 years of age, and you're still under the parents' auspices, and you establish a relationship with the parents, then you can actually work well with the young athlete. The other part is when you start mixing different professions, certified athletic therapists, sport physios, sport physicians, and if you look at Sport Medicine Council, there's a number of other ones. Actually, we start to establish a relationship between ourselves so that if I need to see an orthopedic surgeon, I have a personal relationship with somebody who I can refer them to. And I think that's the other bonus of actually all of us working together as a team and getting to know each other.
Well, let's talk about resources. One of the things about coming on here was to try and implore people to help support this. So what is it exactly you need to make this possible? Are we talking $1 million? Are we talking $100,000? Are we talking $1,000? Like where are we? Like how much money would it take to get the people you need? Because it's not like it's 100 sports, and saying that it's not like it's 10 teams either.
Yeah, that's correct. I did some quick calculations, and we're looking at about $30,000 for the Winter Games to cover mileage, and that's probably a good number to cover mileage, accommodations, and meals. And I just want to preface it that the officials for the Winter Games, those expenses are paid for, so the refs and all that kind of stuff, they're volunteering their time, but they're taken care of because they want the best of the best from their province, right? So they're not only using local people. So that's kind of why we'd like to have this funding, because in the past, it's trying to rely on local people. And if we want other people that actually know the sports or that are sport medicine professionals coming to rural areas, they're coming from far. And that can be a barrier for those practitioners. So the expense piece is important. And I also see this, like we're starting here at the Winter Games, but I could see this being a perpetual thing for the summer games that are coming and the Winter Games that go after them, right? That this just becomes a norm, that we have this high quality medical staff at these games to take care of these athletes. So that's kind of our target. And I think
are the athletic therapists, are they Alberta only? Are they coming from further than that? Like, is it? But
it would be provincial.
Provincial, yeah. So anywhere from in Alberta, the funding would help bring certified Alberta therapists to the Winter Games.
Yeah, and sport physios. That's another group that are, they do a similar thing, very, very similar to us, and are a big piece of that.
How can, if somebody's listening to this, Danielle, and they're like, can I donate to it? Can I don't know. How can they get involved? Let's assume somebody's listening to this and they're like, I competed at the Alberta Winter Games, Alberta Summer Games. Maybe they got a fond spot in their heart for, youth sports. Mm-hmm. How can they get in touch with you or find out more? How can they go about that?
For sure. They could probably email me. I'll give you my email, which is Danielle, DANIELLE at 2026awg.com.
So folks, I'm going to put that in the show notes. Yeah. And if Shaun forgets to put it in the show notes, or a better possibility, you can't find it because I know how this works, you can just text me and I will pass along that email as well. So down on the show notes, or you can text me and I can forward that along as well. Dexter, any thoughts on that before I let you out of here? Like, is there any final thoughts you want people to know about the Alberta Winter Games, certified athletic therapists, anything like that?
I think it's important that the average person, whether or not they know that, I'm sure they've heard of the term athletic trainer before, Shaun. I suspect they have, but the more formal term would be certified athletic therapist or sport physio and so on. Anyway, the long story in that is we're trying to establish better care at all levels within the province. If people want to donate money, sometimes if you're a business, you'd like to have a tax receipt. And Sport Medicine Council is prepared to take the donation, issue a tax receipt, and then funnel every cent of that back to Danielle to do what she needs to do. So if there's people out there wondering about that advantage, then it's certainly there.
Okay, so if there's a business or if anyone needs a tax receipt, just so I have this clear, then they go to Dexter, correct?
They'll go to SportMed Alberta on the website, and then they'll talk to Lindsay, who's our executive director, and they say, we would like to donate money for Danielle and what she's doing with the Alberta Winter Games. And Lindsay would explain to them how to do that. So where to put the money, how we would issue a tax receipt, and how that money would go directly to Danielle.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna say to all the lovely listeners, because they're gonna want simple. You just text me, and I'll harass Dexter, and we'll get you that tax receipt. So that's what I can see questions coming, and that's all right. Yeah. Okay. Any other final thoughts before I let you two out of here? Whether it's anything we've covered today, if you have any final thoughts for the listeners, please fire away.
Well, I just say thank you for providing me this platform for Dexter and I. And if you're not in the position to donate, that's great. I just love that you heard this podcast and that you are interested in knowing a bit more about what we do as sport medicine professionals. And I think that education piece is just about as valuable as this project that we're working on. So thanks.
Dexter?
Shaun, your podcast, and the reason that I talked to you or texted you about this is the fact that I've listened to your podcast for quite a long time now. And I want to thank you, as Danielle did, for what you're doing, not only in sport, but for some of the other people you have to educate the listener. And the fact that we could actually do this with you today, I think, was a blessing in disguise, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you reaching out. As I said before, I don't get to talk about sports near enough anymore. And, it was a big chunk of my life for a long time. So I have, I got a ton of time for amateur athletes as much as I do the pros. And I think it's super cool when, I was, like I said, I'll reiterate it. I got to play in an Alberta Summer Games. It's a cool experience for kids to have. And it takes a lot of different people to come together to pull that off. So to the volunteers, you two, and others, obviously you're not alone. My hat's off to them, because volunteering is what ties a community together. And really appreciate you guys reaching out and coming on the show. I hope some of the listeners find something in this that they're like, yeah, I would love to support that. And I hope it helps. Either way, thanks for hopping on today. And good luck with Alberta Winter Games in 2026.